Here's everything I wish I knew before I went to Disneyland's 70th anniversary. Hey, it's Juliet at Juliet and Beyond. And if you do me a favor right now and hit the subscribe button, it's going to help out the channel a ton. So I have been here digging through everything new for Disneyland's 70th anniversary. And I want to walk you through, over the course of the last 2 days, what my mistakes were, the things that I wish I did better, so that when you come for the 70th anniversary, you're going to have the best trip ever. Let's get into it. Disneyland has absolutely loaded up the resort. Both parks at Disneyland and Disney California Adventure jam-packed with new stuff for the 70th celebration. And while I think it's pretty natural to assume that the 70th celebration is going to be running for 1 year, it's actually running all the way through the summer of 2026, so there is plenty of time to get to the park to see it all. But first off, let me give you a high-level overview of exactly what the offerings are so you can have a good frame of reference for how you can do it better. Starting over at Disneyland, so there's a new cavalcade that's been added. It's called the Celebrate Happy Cavalcade. It runs 2 times per day, and the big news here is that for the first time in over 10 years, it features Duffy and Shelly May. Cavalcades are basically just like mini parades, which means it is shorter on the overall length, but I definitely thought this was worth seeing. For ride updates, this one is honestly pretty minor. So they've added both Dante and Miguel from Coco to It's a Small World. You know, I guess if you're seeing it, it's a nice addition, but it doesn't really feel like this was added specifically for the 70th for me, but here it is. And coming later in the summer, there's going to be a new Walt animatronic that's going to be featured in a show called Walt Disney: A Magical Life. That's in the theater where Great Moments with Lincoln is right now. You won't be able to experience this new attraction though until July, so we'll talk more about it later. Now, for other things you can do in the daytime, of course, there's the standard new photo lenses added for the 70th and a ton of new food. But the thing that a lot of folks are buzzing about are these new interactive experiences. Now, exclusive to Disneyland, if you have a Magic Band Plus, you'll be able to do these interactions around the park. There's supposed to be 5 locations around the park. Right now, there's only 4 open. Basically, you stop in, you tap your Magic Band, and then either some effects happen or you get a cool little printout ticket. And as you're hopping from land to land, you can also pick up this key to Disneyland. This requires a separate purchase. You have to buy the key for $60, and then you can stop into each of these lock stations. There's 10 of them around the park. Turn the lock, there's some special effects that happen, and then eventually, if you do all of them, your key will unlock at the final stop to this commemorative pin. Both this and the Magic Band experiences, they're only in Disneyland parks. You can't do these in California Adventure. Just a quick note on these, I will say for me, you know, the Magic Band investment makes a lot more sense. This is something that you're going to reuse time and time again when you're visiting the park. The key to Disneyland, this is really a one-time scavenger hunt, and for me, I'm just not a big Disney collector, so I was not sure what I was going to do with the key itself once I got back to the house. But a lot of folks were buying these and did seem to be having fun with them. The nighttime is really where I think the heart of the 70th kicks up, especially at Disneyland Park. And that's because the evening begins with Paint the Night Parade. This is honestly my all-time favorite Disneyland parade. It has not been back inside of Disneyland Park since 2017. It is a spectacular electric nighttime parade. And this runs 2 times per evening. Sandwiched between the 2 runs of Paint the Night is the Wondrous Journeys nighttime fireworks show. This show is also not something that's brand new for the 70th. It actually debuted at Disneyland back in January of 2023 as part of Disney's 100th year celebration. Rounding out what's new at Disneyland Park is the projection show over at It's a Small World called Tapestry of Happiness. This is a brand new show, runs just under 5 minutes in length, and there is tons of references to the history of Disneyland in here. You're gonna get lots of Walt quotes. It's very nostalgic. Oh, and of course, there's new merchandise to purchase, and then there's the Story of Celebration. This is a new guided tour that you gotta pay extra for too. So that's everything that's coming to Disneyland for the 70th, but California Adventure doesn't get forgotten completely, though let's be real here. The vast majority of the new things happening are over at Disneyland. California Adventure's a bit of an afterthought, but I can't really be mad about this because, you know, it is Disneyland's 70th. During the day, parades are back at California Adventure, so the Pixar-themed parade, which is called Better Together, a Pixar Pals celebration, runs 2 times each afternoon. And for attractions, they added some 70th-inspired targets on Toy Story Midway Mania. Yeah, again, I would call this extremely minor. Yet again, over here, the nighttime is where the real additions are. So Carthay Circle is getting a 70th-themed projection show called Celebrate Happy, and I would argue that actually the single biggest commission for the 70th is actually over here with the new World of Color show called World of Color Happiness. This is an entirely new nighttime spectacular for the 70th. It runs 2 times per night like World of Color always does. It has a very cool Muppets pre-show, which you absolutely have to catch. And it's also quite lengthy. All in, this is about 30 minutes from start to finish. Here's my omission. While this show is apparently dedicated to 7 decades of Disneyland, for me, after watching it, I will tell you it feels much more like an Inside Out theme show, a Pixar theme show, but I don't know, that's just me. Now you've got your solid lay of the land of what Disneyland 70th is all about. Let's talk about my hard-earned mistakes and learnings. Learning number number 1, some experiences and offerings are actually way easier to see than I thought they'd be. So this is Disneyland, and the locals usually come out here in real force when new things drop in the park. So I was geared up for long wait times and early lineup times for basically everything. But the good news is what I very quickly learned was that not all of the new stuff is created equal in terms of popularity. The 70th Cavalcade at Disneyland, the full parade at California Adventure, the Pixar Parade, Better Together, and Tapestry of Happiness, which is that small world projection show. These all had so much lower crowd levels than I was prepared for, and I arrived about 20-30 minutes early to each of these thinking I would need a lot of time to get a great spot. What I'm going to tell you, be wiser. I would say 5 to 10 minutes, no more than 15 minutes early for each of these 3 experiences. It's going to be plenty of time for you to get the killer spot that you want. The flip side of that though, number 2, some experiences are definitely going to be harder to see and are crazy popular. Probably to be expected, but both Paint the Night and the new Worlds of Color show, Worlds of Color Happiness, were extremely popular. Now granted, I was there during opening weekend, and I do expect the demand's going to fall off a bit, but honestly, Paint the Night was in the park for more than a year, and it was consistently bringing the crowd level, so I don't expect this is going to fall off that much. Some people were lining up as early as 2 to 3 hours before the first Paint the Night show to get a good spot. For me, I just cannot do that kind of wait time. So what can you do besides panic? The big thing that I realized is that the crowds were significantly lower for the second Paint the Night show, which happens an hour after the fireworks. There's a nice built-in buffer here because the fireworks mean that folks really realistically can't even be lined up more than an hour before the parade starts. And one thing that's consistently true with the Disney parks is later is always better because people with young kids want to head out earlier. So the easiest tip for beating the Paint the Night crowds is to, yes, see the second viewing of Paint the Night. Now, if you are a person who wants that front row curb spot, you are also going to need to do a bit more work. But never fear here, the real solution for this is just to shift your fireworks viewing location just a touch. I ended up moving to the right, just about a step off the curb, so that once the fireworks actually ended, I could just sit right down and have the prime viewing location for Paint the Night. This method guarantees you a front row spot. It's definitely still a commit though, you'll end up waiting an hour in total. If you're not quite as choosy, arrive anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes before the second parade and you can still get a pretty decent viewing location. Worlds of Color Happiness thankfully has a pretty easy solution for getting around the crowd levels, and that's simply to join the 12 p.m. virtual queue in the app. There are a lot more pay-in, opt-in, fancy ways to beat the World of Color crowds. The virtual queue has the upside of it being completely free. All you need to do is make sure that you have the Disneyland app installed on your phone, set up your My Disney experience, and then link your entire party's tickets into the app. That just means you need to scan all of your friends' tickets into the app itself. And boom, once noon hits and once you've scanned into the park, you'll be eligible to join the queue. And that does bring the one downside of the virtual queue. Since you have to actually be at the park, it means you're gonna have to get a earlier start. I don't know, noon is earlier for me if I'm gonna hang out at the park until 10:30, but it can be a long day overall. There is always the option for general standby, but I just can't recommend it. Without the virtual queue, you're gonna end up in one of these side viewing locations, and I promise you, you're really not gonna have a great view of the show from there. They're just okay at best. So I'd say arrive to the park before 1 p.m. so you can guarantee getting a spot in the virtual queue. And even once the night hits and you've got an assigned viewing area, you need to make sure you still arrive early enough to get a good viewing location inside of it. For me, I arrived about 45 minutes before showtime. I'd say that felt about right. Learning number 3, do not fear if the food you want to eat for the 70th doesn't seem to be available. So a ton of new snacks, new entrees, they've all been added to Disneyland for the 70th anniversary. I totally recommend before your trip doing a quick Google search for Disneyland 70th foodie guide and then making a list of exactly what you want to eat. But a pretty common Disneyland problem is that snacks will often sell out throughout the day, especially at the hot destinations like Jolly Holiday. The way you'll usually find out about this is you'll go to place a mobile order inside of the Disneyland app and you'll find that the snack you want is not appearing in the list. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no way for you to get your hands on that treat. And that's because things will frequently be refreshed at the actual restaurant location and still not appear for mobile order. So the extremely low-tech workaround I found this weekend is to just simply wait in the standby line for a snack. And then, of course, approach the cast member once you get to the register and ask if the snack you want is available. I promise you, they're used to this. It won't bother them. Just be polite. And you can also do a little bit of snooping at the pastry counter before you wait in line to see if you can eyeball what you want. Now, of course, this is going to be the slower option than mobile ordering food. I would always recommend you do that if you can, but this is a great fallback if your 70th snack is appearing to be sold out. Similar learning with number 4, which is do not despair if the merch you want is not around right now. Like every anniversary, Disney's released a lot of new merchandise. There's a really cool retro collection. I got this really neat jacket from it. But right now, a lot of pieces from this vintage collection and also the 70th line, they're kind of hard to find inside the parks. The good news is that Disney is almost always incentivized to restock merchandise. Now, this isn't a hard and fast rule. Some things do definitely sell out. So if there's something you want in the park, I recommend you buy it when you see it. But if you've got a chase item, something that you're really hoping to buy, check the Disneyland website, check the stores again. If you have the opportunity to revisit them, there's a chance that even 1 or 2 days later, the item that you want will be back in stock. That applies for the 70th collection. It applies for all the vintage pieces experiences. And remember, the Disney Store website will be there for you with a lot of the items you're going to see in the park for weeks to come after your trip. Here's a happy one. Learning number 5, the wait times for rides were kind of amazing. This really caught me off guard because I was geared up for the parks to be incredibly busy, and incredibly busy parks usually equals really long wait times for rides. But with so many new parades, so many new shows, the ride wait times were incredible all weekend, and I think this is going to hold true for at least a few weeks. What this means for you, if you were strongly considering buying Lightning Lane Multipass, that's that feature that allows you to get shorter wait times for rides at an additional charge. I'd check the wait times on your day of before committing to your purchase. You may find that you can get away with saving yourselves the 20 or 30 extra bucks. And it's safe to say, like always, that Disneyland will continue to be the more crowded park than California Adventure throughout the entire 70th. This is basically always true, but even more so now where there's so much more going on for the 70th anniversary over at Disneyland. But the upside is you may be able to catch a 30-minute wait for Radiator Racers, which, yeah, that pretty much never happens. Speaking of lines, learning number 6, not all the lines were short, specifically the ones for those 70th anniversary experiences. Over the course of the weekend, I was really interested in trying out the Magic Band Plus interactions. In fact, I even went to the shop and picked up a brand new Magic Band just for this. So as I mentioned, there's 4 locations for these right now. There's supposed to be 5, but apparently the Tomorrowland one is coming. And I thought this would be a bit like a scavenger hunt, but what I very quickly realized when I went to each of the locations is there was a pretty lengthy line that definitely took any of the hunt out of this whole experience. Now, a similar situation for the lines when it came to that key to Disney. Remember, this is the one that you need to make a special $60 extra purchase in order to do. There's 10 locations as part of this experience, and yet again, I would say it's not a scavenger hunt, it's more of a find the particular line in the location you're looking for. Reasonably, I do think the lines for both the Magic Band Plus experience and the key to Disneyland will die down over the course of the next few weeks, and if you're planning on doing this somewhere in September or beyond, it'll probably go much faster. But if you're coming to the parks anytime soon, just know it may not be as simple as walk up to the stand and get the Magic Band or key interaction. So plan a bit of time. I did actually think that the Magic Band interactions were pretty cool, especially the ones that give you these cool printed tickets. They have a bit of personalization just based on what kind of Disney affinity you have, if you're like a DVC member or an annual pass holder. I like that they're retro, and I'm sure collectors are really going to get after these. If you're curious though, you can only do this one time, so it's one printed ticket per Disney ticket linked to your account. And learning number 7, it's not possible to do everything for Disneyland 70th in just one day. I very quickly realized on opening weekend that so much of Disneyland's 70th activities are loaded into the evening, and specifically that means nighttime entertainment that's going to overlap each other. Now, of course, if you're a Magic Key holder, this is no problem, but if you've only got a single park day ticket, there's one big decision ahead of you, which is between watching Wondrous Journey, the fireworks show over at Disneyland, or catching the new Worlds of Color show. Timing-wise, this is the one event that's absolutely impossible to do both of, and I'm just going to give you my really candid opinion here, which is if you are forced to choose, I'm going to recommend the fireworks show. This is one of my all-time favorite fireworks shows. I think it's absolutely a full, spectacular, wonderful production, and my very honest review, I'll tell you that the new Worlds of Color show just didn't do it for me. This soundtrack just didn't super work. So if you've got to pick, that's where my vote goes, but of course there's really no wrong answer here. Now, if rides are a real priority for your visit, I do think those are obviously always a big time commitment, so I recommend 2 full days to experience the 70th if you can, but that's really if you're angling for 100% completion. So there you have it, everything that I wish I knew before I headed to Disneyland's 70th anniversary. I'll be back here next week with a brand new video for you loaded with tips and tricks, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll see you back here next week.